Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth.
On Now You Know.
So we just got back from the LA Auto Show, and we wanted to get you the footage of all the cool cars that we saw there, and kind of give you our thoughts on it. But first, let's give you a little montage of the LA Auto Show itself. All right, so on day one, I was able to get into the cars because I was there on a press pass day. We went to cover the Cybertruck, and Jesse wasn't feeling that well, so he had to really rest up. So on Thursday, I went to the auto show, and I was given full access to all the cars. I could sit inside them, push the buttons, do all that kind of stuff, talk to reps. But on the second day, the first day of the public's access to the show on Friday, Jesse came along, and I was kind of surprised because I thought we would still be able to get into the cars with our press pass, but on that day and forward, there's no really getting in or touching the cars.
Right. I mean, there were some cars that you could actually get into, but most of those cars were the less expensive ones. The none of the concept cars, none of the cars that are coming out, just cars that they're mass producing now. It kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's hard to get excited about a car that you're staring at and not one that you can sit in.
So I knew the layout of the floor already, and so I played a little game with Jesse of Spot the Electric Car. All right, so let's find the electric cars.
Okay.
Find the electric car. Nope.
No?
Well, it might be a hybrid. What do you think of this one?
Oh, wait, that's a hybrid too.
It's a hybrid. Look to your right.
There we go.
Oh, but you know what?
What?
They're going to stop making this one. So you're going to have to go in there to find the electric one.
Okay. Way in the back?
Yeah, way in the back. It's going to look just like this, Gus.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's going to look just like that.
When we were first getting into this, seeing stuff like this got me really excited. This was 3 years ago. This is before we were getting into this. And so when I saw something like this, I was like, wow, this is super exciting. Now I know that this is a one-off. They just made it once. It's made out of, like, you know, clay and hodgepodge all together.
Clay and hodgepodge.
And then they polish it up and to look shiny and everything. But, like, this doesn't drive. They haven't put the battery pack in it or anything. It's just a shell. So I'm seeing a lot of SUVs and stuff, but I don't see any. I don't see any electrics.
Oh no, it's hidden. It's behind the wall.
What are you talking about?
You got to go behind the wall.
Behind the fancy clicky wall?
Yeah, go behind the wall. See behind the glass there? That's electric.
It's not gonna look like that.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
You said it was like, oh, it's really close to what it's gonna look like.
Close to what it's gonna look like.
They're not gonna put that grill on it. That's the concept.
No, it's gonna look a lot like that.
Zach, did they fool you with the concept?
Well,
did they fool you?
I wanted it to look like that.
Of course you want it to look like that. It's a concept car. It's beautiful. Look, hey. It's beautiful, right? Okay, I'll be honest. It looks gorgeous. But I don't think that they're going to make this car that looks exactly like this.
What do you think they're going to change?
The seats, the steering wheel, the exterior, the door handles, possibly the wheels.
No, you can't test it.
Why not? Sledgehammer test.
Hey, you found it. They hid it over here.
Yeah, it's like under it almost looks like a stairwell from the outside. But yes, this is the Formula E car.
Where are we now, Jess? What car?
Okay, I spotted it. We're in Lexus territory now.
Okay.
I can spot the electric car. Do you know how you can spot the electric car?
No.
Well, it's because it's the only thing with a giant gull wing
let's talk about
Are you
the seat.
serious? Can I just be frank here? Is it cool? Yes. Very
I don't
cool.
know. Look at the rear end, though. It's right here next to you. Do you think that's cool? I don't think so. Talk about angular.
Cybertruck got a lot of flack for the way it looks. And I know that this won't make it into production, so I guess that's why everyone gives it a pass. It does. It looks like an ear. So Zach has informed me that there is another electric car in here somewhere. So I'm kind of using the strategy of like finding the most ridiculous. Oh, there it is. It looks like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang had a baby with like a cheap blender. It's cute. I'll give you that. It's cute. I am definitely a different kind of car buyer than most of the car buyers in the world at the moment. I think that this is a good car for the next 2 or 3 years because I think a lot of people are not so good with the transition between the car that they have now and the cars of the future. And so this is going to be like the ugly duckling between all the other cars that we're seeing here at the event and a fully electric, no grill needed sort of car. It's funny to see this disparity between like cars that look like they're from 2080 and cars that look like they're from last year. I never used to like the look of the Kia. They've done a really good job with the front end. It's very like Stormtrooper.
You're not at the beach.
No, I'm not. I don't have any complaints with this car. Like, it's electric. That's great. I just think this is all a little outdated. And then you have your, I don't know if I'm going to be shifting gears or, I think this is for regen. It's like slow regen, more regen. I don't know if I'd like to use that. I think the car's having a seizure.
Infiniti makes an electric, Jesse.
Is this it? Do you know how I could tell?
How can you tell?
Because it's got crazy doors. Yeah, there's something about EVs that prevent you from putting conventional doors on cars. It means that you have to put it in some crazy way. No, but I mean, to be honest, there's a reason why they have the doors like this. It's to get them out of the way so that way you can see that there is no tunnel. Because with most cars, you have that transmission tunnel that runs right through the middle and that gives you that hump. And so you can see that they have a nice flat shag carpet floor. Interesting. It's crazy. It's like, what will fruit roll up next? That's my initial reaction, Oh, I got $200 off.
So what do you think, Jess? Looks like they're building out the number pretty well.
Yeah, they're building it out. Hope you like Walmart. Because that's all Walmart. So I think I found a Ford Supercharger.
What?
Look at that. Ford Supercharger.
The first ones who ordered got the car before.
The most you're going to get out of that is like 6 kilowatts. But hey, it's a Charger, right? We should start at the very beginning, which is right here. You have your gas tank. Then the gas goes all the way forward, all the way to the front of the car, where it gets burned and exploded, and then the power and the exhaust come back through here, goes through this, filter out some poison, good. Then the power comes through here, has to get divided up. There's a lot of inefficiencies, and it gets divided up again, and then the exhaust comes out through here, get rid of a lot of that noise, and then it comes out all the way. So this is just some stuff you need. You just need to know all this stuff if you want to fix any of your cars, You got your optimized torque converter, you got your nestled clutch and hub design, and then you have all of this. Everything is necessary. If any of this breaks, it costs $4,000. Keep that in mind, $4,000.
All right, so Jesse, this is the
Audi e-tron Sportback. What do you think
Sportback.
of it? What do you think? It's your first viewing of it.
It looks nice. Looks like an Audi, which I think is important for Audi buyers especially. I'm picky. I don't love the grille, but I understand why they have it. If I didn't have anything else to look at, I think anyone would be thrilled with this, right? It doesn't look like a Leaf. I think that is a huge advantage. The old Leaf, right? All the old electric cars used to look weird, and now they look like this. So this is a huge win for anyone looking for electric cars. You don't have to buy a Leaf anymore. It doesn't have to be this bug-eyed monster. It can look like an Audi. Wow, what a win for electric car buyers. You can get a car with like a decent range, decent acceleration, and seating, and it's not crazy. It's a perfectly normal car.
So, I mean, the weird thing was that, like, all of these electric cars were in so many different places for all of the different manufacturers. It really shows that the manufacturers don't know what to do with these electric cars. Some of the electric cars hidden way in the back, behind a panel, or just tucked away, or they'll have their electric concept for the future, some crazy looking thing out front, and then they'll have their like plug-in hybrids stuffed away somewhere in the back. The only traditional automaker I think that did a really good job of showing it was, Kia did a pretty good job. They had a bunch of electric vehicles, and they have very approachable electric vehicles. They don't have too many crazy concepts. But the one that did the best job, I think, was actually Porsche. The Taycan, they had 3 Taycans there, all on display, all in different colors. They had a giant screen behind it. They were constantly talking up the Taycan. And I think that to me, was the most impressive at the auto show for display of EVs at the auto show.
So I was kind of surprised that Tesla was at this auto show at all. They typically don't go to auto shows, and they were at it, but they were outside of it in a tent, a big giant tent, and they only had the Model X, S, and 3 available for test rides. I kind of thought they were going to bring out at least the mock-up of the Cybertruck to kind of gain excitement, but it was not there. Now, if we talk about the Bollinger B1 and B2, they had them, but it kind of seemed like they were pushed off, I guess, in the cheapest part of the showroom, which was under some stairs. Right. And it didn't feel luxurious. They were just out in the middle of a lobby kind of thing.
And it wasn't Bollinger's fault. I mean, it was...
It cost a lot of money to get a key spot.
It cost a ton of money to get in there. I think that under the stairs, it really reflected more poorly on the auto show than Bollinger, because I understand why they were stuffed under the stairs. You have Ford and GM and Ram with, honestly, a ridiculous amount of pickup trucks there. And the crazy thing about that was that they looked all identical, right? Like, you just see this sea of practically identical trucks. Sure, they have slight differences maybe, but I mean, it was just wild, the amount of pickup trucks they had there. And then to shove Bollinger underneath the stairs, it's like, really? Especially for what a high-class truck this is.
I guess we were all kind of surprised that the price of the Bollinger is as high as it is. They're announcing that it'll come out at $125,000, which is, a high price.
I kind of was expecting such a high price. I mean, to me, unattainable is, $70,000 and above. So to me, whether it cost $90,000 or $120,000 didn't make too much of a difference to me. And so having it be $120,000 didn't make much of a difference. I think that, there is a lot of sticker shock when it comes to that. But for the specs, and especially for when it was announced and unveiled, it was definitely a very impressive truck. And it has a lot of really great features that no other truck that we've seen has. I mean, the pass-through, I'm still excited about that pass-through door on the front and the back of the truck that goes all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, being able to store 14 feet of lumber through there is really cool. But the problem I had was that the average person can't get in the truck and sit there and experience it. They have to just kind of peer in.
Exactly, especially when it looked like it was it looks like military-grade hardware. It looks like a tank or a Humvee. It looks like the sort of thing that you could have a bunch of people sitting in all day and it wouldn't mind.
And this is my big comment about auto shows and why I'm not really that plussed by them. It's that looking at cars to me isn't all that exciting. Experiencing them on the road is what I want to do, and that's not what car shows are meant for.
And I think this has a lot to do with how car shows originated and the types of cars that they were showing off. I mean, internal combustion engine cars aren't that exciting unless you get into the race car type things. And then even then, you have to really know what you're doing to drive any of them well without crashing them. An auto show typically is just to look at the pretty cars, because driving them is difficult. Whereas you go to any electric car and it's very easy to pick up and drive because it's the most simplified drive system of any automobile on the road practically.
Now, Taycan was different than any other because they had their own little wing of the auto show. You wouldn't even know you were at an auto show if you didn't want to, and it felt like you were at a private club. They even had a little club just for Porsche members there.
Porsche owners.
Right. You had to be a Porsche owner to go in this little club and have a coffee.
It was like a little restaurant.
And it really did feel like that was the atmosphere they were going for. It was like, come over to join the Porsche club
it's
and
exclusive,
check out the Taycans.
Right. And honestly, that's their marketing. That's
Right.
the way they've been doing business for years. And I was really glad to see that the Taycan was not tucked away behind any paneling or anything. It was right there on display in front of everything. And I think it's because Porsche has been pushed into it. Performance has been their main driver. The main thing that they're known for was performance. And so having Tesla beating out, Porsches left and right really meant that they had to step up their game. And I'll be honest, they did a pretty good job with the Taycan for what it is.
But I'll say I was nonplussed by the look of it. I remember the Mission E when it came out as a concept, and it had a few more exciting lines to it. I don't know. It's been scaled back a bit. And so looking at it up close and getting in it, I just didn't feel like if I had $125,000 to throw around that I would actually be excited about buying a Porsche.
Right. I think I'd probably go for the Bollinger. It seems like there'd be more use for that. But if you're a Porsche guy, if you wanted to go to the exclusive club, which there was a huge line for, I feel like if I was a Porsche owner, I wouldn't want to stand in line for anything. But then again, I'm not a Porsche owner. I think that it's great that Porsche knows that they can't compete with Tesla with their gas models. They went for an electric one. It is beefy. It can compete with the Model S. Of course, it's a lot more expensive, but of course, you're getting that Porsche name brand. They're keeping their brand alive with this car. Honestly, the Porsche brand is being kept alive by the Taycan, and I'm glad that they did a good job with it. Like if they had come out with something where it was like a 0 to 60 time of 4 seconds, and it didn't have fast charging or something like that. I mean, of course, it doesn't have the same charging network as Tesla. So I mean, there are lots of minuses, but I think for what Porsche is and for the auto show that we went to, that was the most impressive to me.
So if we go over to Ford now with the Mach-E, I mean, I think it's a very similar statement to say that Ford had to get this right to keep their brand alive because first of all, that's why they use the Mustang brand to put on it. Like they have really nothing else if you think about it. Everyone's like, oh, it's cool that they put Mustang on there. Well, yeah, what were they going to put on there?
Right.
The Ford Focus?
Fiesta, the Flex, the Edge.
Right.
There's nothing that Ford has besides the F-150, which they are going to do electric at some point, it seems, that really resounds with people, that really has name brand recognition more than the Mustang. I mean, they don't like even a Corolla has name brand for what a Corolla is meant to do.
And I want to point out that if you want to get the really great stats on this Mach-E, you have to go to the GT version, which is not cheap. And it's not
coming out.
Right, it's not coming out soon.
In the foreseeable future.
And a lot of people are saying, like, this is the Model Y competition. And it is. I mean, this is kind of right in line with that. But it's not going to be in the same price range, really. I mean, you're going to be able to get a Model Y cheaper, in my opinion, with the same stats.
Right.
And it doesn't have the charging network. And so, I mean, kudos to Ford. I love all EVs, so kudos to them. But it really is as if it was 2013 to me. Like, that would have been really amazing in 2013.
Yeah.
Today it's like, good for you, but keep working at it.
Right.
Because the only innovation I saw on the car was that in the frunk they had put a drain, which is a great innovation.
Right. And if Tesla had done that, I would have been equally as excited because that's a really great feature. But it is sad that was one of the only things that I thought was really cool.
And the interior of the Mach-E feels like it was thrown together pretty quickly. Obviously, they copied Tesla. Good for them because they copied the right company. Mm-hmm. But it felt plasticky. Like it didn't, when you're in a Model 3, it feels like you're in a spaceship. When you're in the Mach-E, it feels like you're just in, just another line of car.
Right. It is funny that they went for this big screen and then they throw that big knob in the middle.
Yeah, a very plasticky knob.
Right. The knob is the most important key to get right because it's the interaction with the car.
It should have some heft.
Right, we're all used to smartphones, and I know that I'm getting into like the weeds with like user interaction and how people. At the end of the day, it's an EV. I completely understand, but yeah, if you're going to have a knob, one knob, like it's one thing to get into a 1990s car and there's tons of knobs for the radio and stuff like that, but to get into a car where there's one central knob that draws your eye to it, I think it should be a little nicer feeling, looking.
And then just to wrap up, I just think that our takeaway from the whole auto show was that it felt more like
a museum.
Yeah.
It really felt like it was an auto museum. To me, in a few years, I don't know how long it's going to be, if it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be museums like this. I mean, every single one of the pickup trucks that they had there, they had a model of the engine outside of it, and it was hilarious. Like, I've grown up near Lowell, and in Lowell there are the mills, right? And so they have all of these old, it's practically steampunk looking, metal stuff. This is how they weaved cloth back in the turn of the century, and it's all steam powered with belts and pulleys. And then you look at this engine, it has belts and pulleys, and it looks like it's practically steam powered. It's so old fashioned looking, and yet it's their top of the line, latest and greatest.
Well, and Ford had taken one of their cars, flipped it on its side to show off what's underneath the car, and what's underneath the car
is messy.
Is messy and stupid. I mean, It's just moving heat around and moving gases around.
There's all sorts of heat shielding from the exhaust. You have, the fuel is coming from the back of the car, going to the front of the car, getting burned up, getting shot back out the back. It's just like, this is really, and then you look at the underside. I mean, Tesla doesn't do this, but it would be kind of cool if they did. There's not much to see on the bottom of a Model S or Model 3 or Model X.
Big battery pack.
It's just a flat thing. So much more energy efficient when we're talking about mileage and stuff like that, to have nothing on the bottom of your car to cause drag. Right. But also, it's just so much cleaner. It's so much more obvious.
And, if you're wondering why we didn't talk about Honda or Subaru, they were there, but they have no EVs to show. And so, Honda had a little corner with a little bit of green grass where they stuck one hybrid. And that's why we didn't even cover it, because it's a joke.
And I mean, let's talk about the concepts for a second. Some of the concepts that we were looking at, they just look so crazy that I don't think that we're ever going to see anything that's going to look anything like them, right? No one's going to buy a car that has gigantic gull wing doors. Now you might be saying, Zac and Jesse, what about the Model X? Model X has falcon wing doors. They hinge. They have practical uses. And yeah, it's not for everybody, which is why the Model Y is great. But to have every single one of their cars with this giant door just struck to me as, we're not taking this seriously. We're not going to be making this car. And so that was the scary part for me, and that's why it just felt so museum-like. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed watching this episode of In Depth. We do it every single week. We'll see you next week.
Now you know.